Cozy Detectives, and welcome to the Blanket Fort Files. I'm Joy.
And I'm Larissa.
And we're here to report on all things comfy and cozy.
Cozy Detectives, we have such a fun episode for you guys today with our very first guest in the Blanket Fort.
The first person besides us, physically, quote unquote, in the Blanket Fort. I'm so excited. We get to chat with Valerie Campbell, who worked on Gilmore Girls, all of our obsessions, or probably the majority of our obsessions.
What brought us all together.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, Valerie started working on Gilmore Girls around the 10th episode, so she was pretty much there the entire time. She worked as the key set costumer for the original show, and we get into a little bit about what that is if you're not familiar with that position. And then for the Netflix revival, she was the costume supervisor.
Yes, so she'll describe things from details of the show, because she has like the perfect mind for details.
Her memory is so good.
So good. And then we also get to chat about new things that she's working on too, including ice cream. So that is delicious and very exciting.
Yes. And she was just so nice and sweet. And I'm really excited for everyone to get to listen to the episode. I think you guys are going to love it and have a cozy time listening to us chat with Valerie. So
welcome,
enjoy
Valerie.
the episode.
Yay! Today we have a very special guest. Today's guest is Valerie Campbell. Yay! Hello, welcome to the Blanket Fort.
Yay! Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. I know Larissa, but I'm new to you, Joy. Welcome. I mean, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope you feel cozy and comfortable in our Blanket Fort. The first episode I called it metaphorical goodness, so metaphysical or whatever I called it. So hopefully you feel the cozy throughout this, and we just are so excited to have you and chat with you and ask you about Gilmore Girls and ice cream and beyond. But just in case anybody is not aware of what a key set costumer and then a costume supervisor does, can you talk us through that a little bit as we start?
So my name is Valerie Campbell. I was the key set costumer on Gilmore Girls, and my job on the show was to basically take care of the actors on set. I dealt with the continuity. I would break down the scripts. I would make sure the right clothes were put in the room. And then when the actors were on set, I would make sure that they looked the way they were supposed to look on camera. I would take photographs, notes. I would steam out the clothes. If something needed to be dirty, I would dirty it. If something needed to be clean, I would clean it. I would prepare for the next day to make sure we had what we needed for filming the next day. And throughout the day, we would be constantly putting in the right outfit for what they were going to wear for future scenes. And a lot of people always ask, do you get to meet the actors? Yes. A lot of times I'm helping them get dressed. So we're in a very intimate situation with them. And because Gilmore Girls was on the air for so long, I became very close with many of the actors. And I still have very strong relationships with a lot of them. Some people we've lost contact with, but for the most part, there's a good group of people that we get together each year, and we go to Fan Fest, which is where I met Larissa.
Yay!
And
so fun.
And so when we did the reboot, I told Brenda, who was our costume designer, I was like, I want to work on the show, but I want to supervise. So I ended up supervising the show. I don't normally do that. I don't really enjoy it, especially after Gilmore Girls was a lot of work. But the supervisor basically breaks down the scripts, does the budget, hires the crew, makes sure and coordinates with the actors, pays the bills, and makes sure that everything that the designer needs is available to them, and that the clothes get to that costume trailer by the time that they film. Basically, anything that happens in the department goes through the costume supervisor.
Wow.
And we just basically facilitate what the costume designer needs and make sure that happens.
Awesome.
But I wasn't on set as much, and that was kind of sad. But I mean, I would go. I just didn't have time to be there. The phone was ringing off the hook. We were shooting all 4 episodes of A Year in the Life simultaneously.
Wow.
Wild.
That is wild.
So everything breakdowns would happen. We would be shooting. Sometimes we would shoot all 4 episodes in one day, but mostly they would stick to 1 or 2 episodes, depending on wherever they were shooting. But basically, it was coordinating 4 movies, filming
Wow.
simultaneously. Now, most shows that supervise, it's not as hard of a job. And I think that kind of turned me off. The 2 times I've supervised big shows or union shows have all been very large, epic things. And so it kind of just makes me go, let me just have an easier job.
Right. Yeah. I don't blame you. But I think that's such a unique role, and it's so important. Like without that role, like our show wouldn't exist, right?
Yeah,
like it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. So we do have a couple kind of behind the scenes questions for you, but because our vibe here is very much cozy, and that is why we love Gilmore Girls so much, is the coziness of it. So, and you may or may not know this, but do you think when Amy was kind of creating the show, was it her intent to create a cozy show while y'all were working on it? Was the coziness part of the discussion, or did it just kind of end up as like a cozy vibe show?
I don't know what her intentions were. But I think it's just the format of the time. Like nowadays you are producing television that has to have a beginning, middle, and end. And it usually is a story arc that happens over the course of 7 seasons. Whereas Gilmore Girls, you could pick up any episode at any time and you wouldn't necessarily feel totally lost. Like you didn't have to be so invested in the story. You could kind of pick it up anywhere. Whereas now you're watching Battlestar Galactica, where you have to watch from episode 1 to the end, or you don't know what's going on. So I think it's just more maybe the intentions of most shows back then were set up in a format that could be watched at any point in time, which probably does lend itself to that. I think the thing that Amy brought to it versus any other show that was on was the immense dialogue and the learning and the tiny embedded things that nobody knew that were even happening. You'd be like, what's this obscure line? Oh, maybe it's just some funny thing she made up. No, that actually means something.
Right.
Half the time, those things went, well, FloJo we would know, but like that was very current to the time period. But there would be a lot of things that were very, very obscure that unless you had Google, which we were not really using back then with a lot of regularity, it wasn't the same thing as it is now. It's interesting to watch the show having not seen it since the show ended. Like I only worked on the show. I never watched it. And I just am almost finished watching all the episodes on TikTok live. And I've only been watching them once a week, which is actually still faster than you would normally have seen it.
Because of the hiatus.
Because the hiatus and all that. And it's interesting because like we have access to our fingertips, all these things that like, oh, what is that line? What does that mean? And like you can look it up. Whereas back when you watched it originally, unless you were recording it, you didn't really have a way to rewind it, at least not the first couple seasons. So these little insider secrets, Easter eggs were all hidden within the dialogue, and it was just kind of made that fun. And just the speed at which the girls talked made the show so different than anything else that was on the air at the time.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And you were saying that, and it kind of reminded me, I also really loved the Gilmore Guys podcast when that was on several years ago. And they talked about one of those references that was, I think, from the 50s. It's in like season 1, but Richard refers to Peyton Place, which was like an old like soap opera, I think. So that one always stands out to me as like, no one would know what that is back then, probably, but especially now.
They would know back. Peyton Place would have been something you would have known, but it would have been more of a throwback to your mother or your grandmother might have known. I did not watch Peyton Place, but I knew it existed. I knew it was something.
Yeah.
Versus a fake line of some fictional, any other universe
True.
of
Yeah.
shows
Yeah.
would have to create some fake universe that it didn't have as much meaning because maybe it would have been a throwaway line. But yeah,
In
Love that.
cool.
kind of thinking of Cozy, of the show overall, obviously your job is such a detailed and specific job. When cut was called and there's like a reset, all of the work that you put into that to have it be cozy to us, how do you making that look so effortless as watching it years and years later?
It was not effortless.
Yeah.
Basically, our scenes were so long and there was so much dialogue that the actors had to learn. And if there was a problem behind the scenes, like one of the main things that Sesha, who was taking care of Lauren, and myself, who took care of everybody else, we would always have to make sure that the girls, and pretty much anybody, if they bent over and all of a sudden you see skin, you see any kind of thing that looks out of place, or the shirt got caught on something, because the scenes were so long, they had to have a perfect master to cut from.
Wow.
And we would stand right next to the director. This does not happen on most shows.
That's what I was wondering. Are you standing behind the scenes, like kind of where like George would be and you're watching? Or
George could be anywhere on stage.
Okay.
I was standing. Okay, so the director, script supervisor were there. I was right here.
Whoa.
Wow.
We would be like right here, like in line where they could see us, and we could be looking at the monitor. And we would be like, and we wouldn't say anything. We'd just be like,
point out,
look at this right here. You need to cut. And the directors were like, what is this costumer telling me to cut? Like, and they're like, you don't understand. If there is something wrong, they don't want the actors to have to waste their breath when something needed to get fixed. So then they would just, we would fix it. I would go in and we would either talk to Lauren or Alexis or Lane or whoever it was and be like, when you get to this line and you bend over, you need to tug at your shirt and fix it so that it doesn't look like crap for the rest of the scene.
Wow.
Because it wasn't going to naturally fix itself unless they did it. And if they didn't do that, then you'd have a glaring, weird thing. So a lot of times you can actually catch the actors tugging at their shirts, and that's because of me. And Sasha, like both were, well, that's what our instructions were. Like, you got to make sure that this is right. There might be times where you scanning. Yeah, I mean, my job in general is to observe and to correct and to fix and not be afraid to step in. Like you might have like the Secretary of State, like, or whoever was on our show. And you can't just be like, okay, I can't, like, you can't be timid as a costumer. You have to be aggressively like, let me fix that. But also respectfully. You got to be respectful and forceful to get your things done. So it wasn't as cozy as it would look or seem.
You made it seem so effortless. You did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So obviously working on the show definitely was not cozy. I know you guys were working sometimes 20-hour days, but
22.
Yeah, super long.
Yeah.
But looking back, do you have any memories that might feel cozy or just like that you really think back on fondly now from
this one process? That here's one I probably haven't shared much of. The day that we shot You Jump, I Jump Jack, the white party.
Mm-hmm. Joy's favorite episode.
That's my favorite episode. I was wondering about
the
that
moment
so many
they were doing the Twix and the A and the like you can't say the word, like whatever. They were shooting that scene. They were setting up. It was a very long night. We were shooting in the middle of Griffith Park in an area that could only be accessed through a half an hour off-road trip. Through a back road that's closed to the public.
So fun. So
we had to drive up this crazy windy dirt road, and we finally get to our location. It might not have been completely dirt road, but there definitely were parts of it that were. And middle of the night, we shot all night. There was a Santana concert going on earlier that night. We had to wait for Santana to finish before we could continue to shoot.
Oh man.
Because the Greek theater was literally like just down the hill. All the sound was echoing
all the audio. Oh gosh.
But there was this one moment, it was really late, and the boys, and they were all kind of new to each other. Like at that point, this was the first Life and Death Brigade event.
Yeah.
One of them had a guitar, and like back then, like we didn't have our phones to go like messing around. We had magazines, we had knitting and crocheting.
I love it.
And we had like whatever random, we had puzzles and Sudokus and crossword puzzles and just things to keep us occupied. And so one of the guys had a guitar, and I had a little, whatever, it was like a Palm Pilot kind of thing, but it wasn't Palm Pilot, Sony Vaio or whatever. And you could record audio on it. And so like, I snuck behind him and I was just like recording them, just like playing their music throughout the and they were just playing guitar and kind of just, and it was just the boys, just, you know, Logan and I don't know who was playing, if it was, but it was like it was Logan, Robert, Colin and Finn and whoever else was there, and and hair and makeup, and just the boys, and they were all just hanging out playing guitar. And it was like there were cozy moments on set. There was another cozy moment. We were shooting the scene where Luke's brother, TJ and Liz get married.
And
good episode.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Real life, the brother of Michael DeLuise, real life brother, was on set because he played his real life. He played his brother on the show.
Love it.
And he was just having a blast. Like he had so much fun. One of his lines was huzzah. And so like all night he was just saying huzzah. Like, didn't he say huzzah? Or was he saying huzzah because everybody else was saying huzzah? I don't know. All I know is
he was very in character.
I remember he would just be like, huzzah, and like just like yelling out at set. And then I remember we had these, it was really cold outside, and we had those gas heaters that kind of they're like flat. Usually, sometimes you'll see them at restaurants, but they're flat and they, you know, blow the gas out like that. And we would always be sitting out there and are bundled up. And I think we shot that scene over the course of maybe 2 days. And the second day, the first night, someone said, "You know what? We should get like marshmallows. We should toast some.
Yes,
we should make s'mores." And so someone had brought the ingredients to make s'mores on set.
Love it. Oh, that's so fun.
And so I remember that. And then like there were other times where okay, remember the George Foreman grills for the Kirk's Diner?
Yeah.
So this must have been was that season 7 or was that? Yeah, that had to have been season
7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so our craft service was not the best. They did not have access to a lot of money. Not because they weren't whatever. It was more what money they were given and how little they had. And so a lot of times we had on our trailer, we had a rice cooker.
Okay.
Now, most normal people cook rice in their rice cooker, right? Well, my rice cooker could cook cakes. It could saute. It was basically before the Instant Pot, but it did everything the Instant Pot does.
That's amazing.
And so I would make omelets on the trailer, and I remember Lauren like getting like I forget, like one day she like got eggs and brought eggs and mushrooms and things.
I know who the chef is.
And she's like, I'm in. I want to get in on the omelet action. And then our food stylist, her name's April. Our food stylist had made this chipotle jam.
Ooh,
and so I would put the chipotle jam in the omelets that I would make. We would do like omelet, goat cheese, chipotle jam, mushrooms, onions, and like this omelet that I make in the trailer. And then it graduated to when Kirk had the diner. They had all those Foreman grills, and I said, "Hey, props!
You need all those.
Can I borrow those Foreman grills?" And so we had a Foreman grill in the back of the costume trailer. Now, this is not something normal costume trailers do. We had time. Because we always had time. And one time we had a potluck at our house, and someone had brought with them like some steaks and some seafood, and they forgot to cook it. And so the next day I go to work and I'm like, wait a second, I can bring the steaks and the fish. I'm cooking fish and filet from the back of the costume trailer. Speaking of which, the Grips would every week they would do Grip barbecue. And so they would collect money from the crew, would collect money. They'd go buy beef and chicken or whatever they buy, like whatever they'd buy, and they'd stick it on the barbecue, and they would cook that at lunch, and they would share it with the crew once a week.
That's so fun.
There was one time I brought my ice cream maker, and I think I made lavender lemon sorbet or something like that.
Which I think I made if that one's in your cookbook, right?
Yeah.
I think I made
that was
that
the
one.
ice cream. There's an ice cream that's lavender lemon. But this one, I think I did a sorbet just because there were some people that were non-dairy, and I always want to make sure there's enough for everybody. But I remember bringing my ice cream maker, and it was like going in Stars Hollow.
I love that.
On the back lot.
So what I'm hearing is that now I need to cook my way through the behind the scenes food of Gilmore Girls and all the dishes you made.
Bonus episodes.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what else I made. But yeah, no, we would do lots of little, I remember one time, talk about cozy. There was some argument, Brenda was our costume designer, and Brenda and I were talking about waffles. And she was like, Bisquick is it. Bisquick is waffle. And I'm like, no, scratch. You got to make it from scratch. And so this was like really contentious. Brenda and I would fight all the time, but it was always like in fun. And so so we were fighting about this, and I'm like, okay. And we're like, well, we're going to just have to make waffles. So we made waffles on the truck.
Oh, nice.
We both brought kitchen, like I think we either had 2 KitchenAid mixers or we had one. We had a bunch of waffle makers. Oh wait, this is going to go to something else too, but we had a bunch of waffle makers. And I made gingerbread waffles from a book from like 1940.
Ooh, yeah.
And she made her Bisquick waffles, and then we had them out front, and everyone on the crew came over and had waffles from the costume trailer.
Did they vote or anything about their favorites?
We're
not going to divide.
I don't know. I don't remember exactly if there was any like winners, but it was all in fun.
Everybody.
And then another time, I did not necessarily partake in this one because I'm not a cupcake person, but Sesha and Brenda had a cupcake competition. And so then they did the same thing with cupcakes, although I don't think they made them on the trailer. I think they made them and brought them in and gave them to the crew. And then, the waffle iron. There's a story behind the waffle iron. So the back of our costume trailer, and this is really cozy. The back of our costume trailer, if you looked through the back of our costume trailer, you would be looking straight into the trailers for Drew Carey. So the actor's trailer for Drew Carey, not Drew, like Drew probably had a special room on stage, but it was like Diedrich Bader was like and Ryan Stiles, and then the blonde that was in Lost that later went and worked on that. And then like a little further down was Kathy, who played Mimi, and then Craig Ferguson. Well, what you don't know is that they were really super, super good friends. All of that cast was just super friendly. And every day that they worked, that they like had downtime, they would come to the back of our costume trailer and like sit on the liftgate or like lean up against the liftgate and hang out. And one day Diedrich and Ryan came up to me. You know, I would say hi, like, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Like, whatever. Like, like we're neighbors. You're like, I'm like, this rack down. Can you guys move out of the way? But they were really cool. They're really nice. And one day they found out, because we had a lot of crew that would get fired or would quit or left the show because we had 7 long seasons, and it was kind of a thing. Like, not everybody survived Gilmore Girls because it was a hard show.
It's so hard.
Wasn't so cozy. Wasn't that cozy? And so I just remember every time I'd run into Diedrich or Ryan, they'd go like, "So what's going on over there?" and then I would tell them who the latest person that got fired or quit was. And they'd be like, wow, man. Like literally the year after I think Drew Carey went off the air
Ooh,
the
I
year
don't know.
before we went off the air, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it might have been even 2 years. And I would run into Ryan afterwards, like maybe he was on the lot walking around.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, Ryan, we lost 20 people since I last saw you.
I love that.
But
man.
because you're like, what does this have to do with the waffle? Well,
She's gonna bring it back.
the year, I always bring it back. The year that Drew Carey went off the air, every year on any show you're working on, the cast will give gifts to the crew.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's the producers give a gift. Sometimes it's the cast. They'll get together and they'll kind of like create something to give away. And they had a waffle iron with Drew Carey's face on it. It was also a 3-part.
Wow.
It was a sandwich maker. It was waffles, sandwiches, and pizzelle.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
And like it had different plates that would
Nice.
come out. And it had
So
Drew
fun.
Carey's
Cool.
face on it. And so that was one of the waffle irons that we had that we did it.
Do you still have
I
that?
love that.
You know, I had it for a while and I finally was like, I don't need it.
You're like, I don't know
A
what
lot
Drew's
of
face and
times.
all my food.
Well, I mean, I used it for a long time.
Yeah.
And then it also came with pancake waffle batter. It came with waffle batter with Drew Carey's face on it.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
really cute. I mean, I
That's
used it.
fun.
I ate it. The funny thing, not related to Gilmore Girls, but my cousin got married. We had the brunch for her, whatever, bridal brunch at my house. And her husband's aunt, also a cook, we're like, hey, does anyone have waffles? Because we're gonna make waffle. Does anyone have another waffle iron so we can make more? She shows up with the Drew Carey waffle iron. And I was like,
Wow. Full circle.
obviously she somehow has a connection to Drew Carey Drew Carey as well. I don't know what it was because I don't think she actually worked on the show. I think she might have been like an agent or something like that. But isn't that weird? Like,
Yeah.
of all
that's
the
so
waffle irons
funny.
in the world, that's the one you brought.
She's the one
Was
that
there
walked in.
just one, or is there like several floating out there that we need to hunt for?
However many crew members there were, that's how many waffle irons they probably had. I mean, maybe at least 100, if not probably 200 that they made because they had to give it
Wow.
to everybody that was on the show.
Yeah.
I don't know how many crew members they had.
Oh, that's so
Well,
funny.
Joy needs to add that to her thrift wish list to see if she can find one.
Yeah,
I
I
love
don't
thrifting.
think I have it. I mean, if I do, it's stuck in a cabinet, but I kind of think that I got rid of it at one point in time because I'm just like, I didn't work on the show. Like,
Yeah. And there's
have a
only
special
so many
connection.
Drew Carey
Yeah.
waffles that you can eat before it
Yeah,
gets a
start
little
hitting
too
the
much.
limit. Oh, they're hilarious
Yeah.
though. I loved
Yeah.
Whose Line was like a huge rewatch of mine, and they just are hilarious on that.
It's so fun going like, I know that.
Yeah, they really are that funny.
Yeah, I mean,
it was fun.
it's interesting. I would not be friends with some of these actors had it not been for
Yeah.
those long hours. If we were working like a 10-hour day, I probably wouldn't have ever had the opportunity to even talk to them. We would have been in and out and gone, and they probably wouldn't remember me as much as they do now. But like, we've shared so many intense moments, and for the actors, it's not as much. Like, they're there for like, maybe they're there for 1 8-hour a day. Obviously, Lauren and Alexis were there for almost at least half an episode, if not longer. But most of the actors weren't there for very long periods of time. It was the crew that really ended up suffering under conditions that were really long.
Yeah, that's tough.
In thinking about Cozy though, what would you say is your Cozy rewatch show? Like if you're going to go back a movie, a show.
Yeah, you know what? There's a couple. I think I know for a fact. The Good Place.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Good Place.
Mm-hmm.
That one I could watch any day of the week in the middle. Like, I'm not a rewatcher of most things. If Pushing Daisies would be one that I would have loved to have had more than one season.
Me too.
And then like that would definitely be something I would bring back if that is even a possibility.
I know. Oh, and the sets on that too were amazing, and the costumes on that were amazing.
The sets were amazing, but a lot of it was animation, wasn't real. Like they used some of the backdrops were definitely added afterwards. Like they had technology on the side, which is another reason why they probably got canceled, is they had so many special effects. It was a very expensive show for them to produce, but such a beautifully well done show. Like I love that show. I think about it. That's probably one that I think about more than any other show, because it's just like mentally you're like, but if he touches her again, he's gone.
Yeah, and then they do the bubbles and all of that. Larissa, did you ever see that?
I love the bubbles.
I didn't watch that one, but I like remember, because that one used to be on ABC Family, right?
You should watch it. You really should watch it. It's a very fast watch. I don't even know if you can watch it, but
I have it on DVD. I'm a DVD watcher. I have the physical media. So
you need to share it with her, so she's got it. Just like, I love that show. I'm trying to remember. I love dark. I love weird, like quirky. I like sci-fi stuff.
Okay, yeah,
me too.
I like not to say it's necessarily a cozy watch, but it's like I like to just kind of get into someone else's world and like stay there. And I like, television. What's fun is when you're immersed in something that it makes you think about the world that creator has created, because it's not the world you live in. And that one is, did you see Dark on Netflix?
I haven't watched all of it. I watched like the first episode, and then I don't know. I just got distracted. I am a pretty heavy rewatcher. Larissa, have you seen?
No, I haven't. I watched the same like 5 shows.
Yeah.
On that show, you have to invest the time.
Yeah.
And it is worth a rewatch, only from the aspect of there are so many weird things going on.
Yeah, that's right. I was like, I don't
know. Like Lost was weird. Like, and what was interesting with Lost is Lost was probably one of the very first shows as an adult, like not a child, but as an adult, where I actually watched it because working in the business didn't have time. But the DVR had just sort of been invented. People were TiVoing.
Groundbreaking.
And so I had the ability to watch. And that was the kind of show where someone had DVR'd the first season, gave it to me over hiatus for season 7. And I was able to watch it. And then I TiVo'd everything. And John Cabrera was hosting a podcast on it. Or he was doing a blog. He did a blog during the time, and John Cabrera played, John, who played Brian on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of following his journey of watching it, and, had my own theories about what was going on as well. But
yeah.
Well,
good one.
Speaking of rewatching, obviously you're doing this big watching of Gilmore Girls on your TikTok. So can you share a little bit about how that experience has been? And now that you're coming towards the very end, has there been an episode that has stood out to you as a favorite to view it that you may not have thought would be a favorite from working on it, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Okay. For me, favorites are hard because it's just there's too many. So I started watching it like 2021, and then I really started watching it in 22. Like, no, actually, I started at the very end of 2021. And once a week, I've been watching one episode each week. There's been a couple times where I couldn't watch it because I was like at FanFest and couldn't watch an episode with everyone. But it's been incredible because I never watched the show and I did not even know anything about the first 10 episodes because I didn't work on them.
You weren't there yet.
Yeah.
And so at the first few FanFests, I would be like talking from a point of thinking something happened when it didn't, or not understanding why people were walking around with jean shorts and tie-dye cowboy boots. Like, I didn't know what the hell that was because I didn't have anything to do with it.
That's so funny.
The Rory sweater, I had no idea what the Rory sweater was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I finally watched that episode. By the way, do you guys know this? I have the Rory sweater, but not the real one.
Oh, I did. I think I saw your TikTok on that.
That's so
Yeah.
cool.
I love it.
It's right here.
So coveted. I like this insider scoop.
Yeah, this is so cool. I love this sweater. I just love big chunky sweaters though. I just like thrifting things.
So there's a girl, I was scrolling through TikTok, and there was this lady on TikTok who was knitting. She's not a Gilmore Girl fan. She just knitting. And I said to her, I go like you really should make this sweater, because people keep coming into my comment section asking about this sweater.
Yeah.
And so she
that's like perfect.
decided to make it.
Oh, I love
and
it.
it's I don't know if my thing's gonna blur out, so hold on a second.
Oh, it's perfect.
Oh, that's so
like
cozy.
Peak cozy. Yeah.
Peak cozy.
It
And
is.
it's a big.
She
like,
literally
diamond.
like she took my measurements and then she decided to create it. And the only problem is she can't really sell it as a pattern because
Yeah.
of
That makes
the
sense.
logistics. But yeah, this is it.
Love it.
I
now
love
you're
it.
definitely blanket
I'm
fort
gonna wear it
vibes.
at Fan Fest.
Oh,
Ooh,
perfect.
I'm gonna wear it
fun.
at Fan Fest and share it with everybody. It's not like, while it's super cozy, it's not something I would probably wear. You would never wear it out in the street. Like, it's just too like bulky. Like,
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, that's so fun.
It's a fun.
You do it with boots
But
and
yeah,
jeans,
I mean,
or
I'm gonna try to match her costume as much as possible. I'll use my necklace because she does have like a little thing that's kind of like a choker, so
yeah,
that
she
kind of
does.
works.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've been growing my hair out, so my hair is
Wow.
super long.
Whoa, your hair is so
Perfect.
long.
I'm gonna-
I need a haircut. I love it.
So,
it's so fun.
So yeah,
Yeah.
But
if
it's
anyone's
been
gonna
fun, like-
get all the details.
Yeah, I know, right? Very
Yeah.
detail eye focused. Oh, that's so cool.
but isn't it crazy? Like, she created this
beautiful.
pattern from just by looking at it. And I mean, she's going to do a thing where she teaches people how to knit cables. So like,
Wow.
if you really wanted to learn how to make that sweater, give her a follow, and then you'll learn how. Her name is Melanie, and her TikTok is my spot at your spot.
Oh, cute.
And,
Yeah. We'll
I'll
definitely
send
add
you
that
her
in.
information.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll link her. Oh, that's such a fun thing.
Where are we at? There, your initial question was coziness. What's
Just
your
talking about the
favorite episode?
rewatching. Yeah.
Rewatch. Okay, so as far as the rewatch, at the very kind of in the middle of, so I wrote an ice cream cookbook. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for
But
that.
what had happened was when I started watching Gilmore Girls, I was just had finished writing my book. It was being printed, and they sent me the paper from the book and that just like, so I can do stuff with it. I was like, please don't throw it away. Send it to me and I can, wrap the book and, I can give it away. I do certain things with it. And then I was like, and I would draw special things in people's books. Sometimes I would draw like maybe a bunch of daisies or like the gazebo or Star Hollow sign or some like silly things like that. And while I was this will get back to what we were talking about.
You're doing great.
I do
We're
have a
here
place
for
to
it.
go. It's a long story. But basically what had happened was when the book pages arrived, I wanted to be able to use them as a way to improve my skills at drawing. Because I knew I was going to be drawing in the book for people, because I said, you know what, people like these little drawings in the book. Why don't I offer that as a service? So for for $65, you could get me to draw a picture in your book. And then, so just like a little $65 add-on, make a little extra cash on the book. And so I started drawing pictures at the end of every live. So every time we started watching, and we started kind of season 3, it was the first time that I drew on the pages for this was the episode where Gran is kissing the man in the tracksuit.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, it's raw. It's rough. It is not pretty.
I am not a good
It
drawer,
is
so
not pretty. And I'm using alcohol markers, which I had never used before.
Oh, I never used those.
And now I've gotten to the point where like the difference between the first drawings and the like more current drawings is like night and day. It is
that's
like
so cool,
amazing.
though.
wow, these are beautiful. Like and And so one of the things that is happening is that at the end of my massive rewatch that I'm doing, I'm giving away. Oh, and then once a month, I give away one of the drawings to one of my subscribers.
Fun.
So at the end of my massive rewatch, which is going to be in like 3 weeks, kind of in the middle of September, I'm going to be giving away all of the drawings to my subscribers and kind of giving them away in order of how long people have been subscribed and the kind things that people have been doing for each other. This happened without my knowledge. Well, so what happened is, so I go live pretty much every night. I don't watch Gilmore Girls but once a week, but I go live every night, sometimes during the day, sometimes when I'm walking my dog or cooking in my kitchen. It's just like really cozy. It's cozy.
Yes.
Yeah. And this one subscriber friend decided she bought a book for herself, and she noticed someone in the comment section saying that she couldn't afford a book. And it was someone that she had grown really fond of. And she said, Valerie, can you buy a book I want to buy this book and send it to Alyssa. And and her name was Mimi. And so Mimi bought this book. And at first she was like, I want to be anonymous. And I'm like, that's going to be weird. Like, she's going to be freaked out thinking, who the hell did she singled her out for a book? Like, can you tell her? And so she's like, yeah, go ahead, tell her. It's fine. And so that one book, which happened about 1.5 years ago, ended up meaning that every few months or every week, like every time Mimi gets a little bit of money, she'll buy a book for someone else.
That's so sweet.
And then some of the people who've received books, maybe they did have an intention to buy a book and they just needed to wait. Like they didn't want to do the expense. They didn't just keep the book. They a lot of times would end up giving a book to someone else. So there's this whole tree of names of all my subscribers' names that I made that is like this really cool little tree. I illustrated it, and after a year of doing this thing, I gave the tree to Mimi. But I've been keeping it going. So every person that's ever given a book or gifted a book or gotten a book and then they're like little, it looks like a family tree. It's really awesome.
Sweet.
And it all started with Mimi. Yeah. Aww. And so the basically every person that's gifted something, either a book or I've been making stickers or I've been making whatever I've been making, they have they're on that list, and I'm going to allow them to pick their pictures first. But I'm giving all those pictures away.
That's so awesome.
So it's really fun.
I love that. That's so cool that you're drawing all of that too. Is your brain, when you're drawing, are you on like the more creative side of your brain? Are you seeing like all of the details of it? How does your brain work in that process?
I don't know. I just do it. Like I don't think about it. I just do it. A lot of times I also do things, but I'm not as hypercritical of myself. I am hypercritical, but I'm also not. Does that make sense? Like,
yes.
I'm okay. I'm okay allowing some things to slide, but then other things I'll hyper obsess about. But I started making each month I make stickers. And wait, are you also a Gilmore Girl fan, Joy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, absolutely.
I've been watching since 2000.
Okay, these are going to be very obscure. Well, I'll show you.
Oh, I think I know which ones. I think I've seen these. They're so fun.
These ones are new, and
they're new ones.
Seen them yet. You may not have seen them. You would have only seen them if you've been in my live the last couple of days.
Ooh.
This one's super easy.
Cool. I don't know if I can.
Do you see what it is?
Hold it up a little closer.
An ice cream with what's the red?
It's a harp.
Oh, it's a harp.
And
Drella.
There's musical notes. I'll send you the thing. There's musical notes, and then there's a bottle of beer.
Oh, it's a bottle of beer. That's awesome.
Okay, this one's a little bit more obscure, but
is that the Eiffel Tower?
Yeah.
Eiffel Tower, a motorcycle, and encyclopedia.
Very cute.
I love that.
Yeah, for Chris.
And a motorcycle helmet with a guy. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, this one, it's a
cute.
dog.
Is that for
Oh,
Paul?
And then
it's
there's-
Paul. Oh, it's Paul. Like, I'm like, my eyes are trying to like look
Yeah.
everywhere. It's Paul. Like,
There's a
it's so
row of
cute.
shoes.
Nice.
His
Found
hat.
that cross.
Luke Steiner.
Cute.
So yeah, so I have these. Each month I'm making 3 new stickers, and that's just
Fun.
August.
Oh,
But
I love it.
I think there's like, oh my God, I've been doing it since last year. I made 12 or 15. And then each month I've been making 3 to 4, sometimes 5.
That's awesome.
And people have been getting them on a monthly basis. But they're fun.
So fun.
So
Yeah, you're really
fun.
stretching that creative muscle. When I draw for the embroidery, sometimes it comes and sometimes it doesn't. And so that's why I feel like all the reps you're putting in is just like keeping that flowing.
The more you can do creatively, like you just have to do it, and you also have to not care. What I mean by that is I'm not saying like don't care. I'm just saying like sometimes you just have to let it be.
Yeah.
You have to let it be, and you have to say, what does the art want? Like when I wrote my book, and I'm sure right now you're showing pictures of it.
Yeah. I'll hold it up in a second when we talk about it.
Edit this in. But basically, there are stories in the book that I created. Each recipe in the book has a story of the person that inspired that flavor. And some of the people that are in the book have passed away. They are friends, people, family, and when I wrote their stories, I couldn't ask them like, hey, is this true? Did this happen? Did that happen? Yeah. I had to just kind of go with my gut on it. I had to ask other people. I would take every little bit of information about that person that I remember, whether they were alive or dead. And I would put it like basically vomit up the information. And then the format of the book was a square. So I could only fit it.
Yeah, I like the both sides of it too, where the story and then the recipe. Yeah, the Eds. That's the one I was thinking of when you were talking about it. It's so funny.
I love it. So it's so unique. I love it so much. Yeah.
That's so fun.
And so because there was so much information and I could only fit it in that square, I had to be very judicious about what I would put in that square.
Yeah.
And if there was a way to tell the same amount of information with less words, I would do it. Like sometimes I would use a word, and then the next time you come to that sentence, you would use the same word again.
Yeah,
or the same part of the word.
Yeah.
Or art that, and like now most people speak with emojis. Like when you're texting, you're using an emoji to elicit some kind of information versus the long-winded scripts that we would do back when I was a kid. So it became very natural to kind of go like, okay, how could I do it? It would take me a day to, when I was in a good rhythm, I could produce one of these stories within a day.
Wow.
Of with maybe not the art, but necessarily like the layout and the words I was going to use.
Yeah.
But it was just so much fun to create it. And sometimes the art is super hyper focused, and sometimes it's just a simple happy face. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to live in the same. Like it all lives in the same world. But it was so much fun, and I don't know why we were talking about this, but
no, but it's fun.
Just like creating.
We want to hear about your ice cream, and
then we can. I've got a couple of specific ice cream questions for you.
Oh, yes, go for it.
As a person who makes ice cream myself, you have some really unique and special flavors. And I know a lot of those were requests or inspired by these stories. But can you talk about kind of your creative process in terms of creating those unique ice cream flavors?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky and fortunate. I live in Los Angeles, and I have a garden. I've been gardening for years. I have friends that will bring me fruit from their garden. Like today, someone brought over some figs.
Oh, so good. One of my favorites.
And sometimes I am not a fan of the fruit that they're bringing. Like there was one time someone brought me figs, and I loved fig Newtons as a kid, but I did not know how to eat a real fig. And I ended up creating something that was disgusting because I didn't use the right proper thing. Like I used something that was not so good. There was also the same thing happened with a persimmon. I got a persimmon, and it was the worst persimmon I've ever had in my life.
No.
And so a lot of times it's experimenting and figuring out. It's the request, like people give you something, you're going to have to make something out of it. It doesn't turn out good. But then you go, wait a second, someone taught me that the fig needed to be a little softer before I used it. Or the persimmon, the same thing with persimmon. There's 2 different kinds of persimmons. One is hachas. Remember this, hachas are horrible.
Oh, the H. Okay, got it.
Gotcha.
Fuyus are fantastic. Fuyus are the hard ones.
Okay.
Hachas are the squishy ones.
I'm looking that up. I
I've
couldn't
never-
even tell you what a persimmon looks like.
It looks like a tiny pumpkin, and then the other one looks like an acorn. So
Do I want the pumpkin or the
basically,
acorn?
you want the one that looks more like a pumpkin that's hard as a rock,
Gotcha.
and it's called fuyu.
Fuyu.
But basically, what happens is you get gifted something, and you're like, okay, I don't want it to go to waste. What can I do with
Right.
it? And then you taste it, and if you can taste something that is perfectly ripe, you can go like, what does that taste like? Well, persimmons kind of taste like fall. And so that kind of gives you like, maybe add some ginger or add some other spices to it. And so it's all about just experimenting. And a lot of times letting other people tell you what they love. Like if you're the kind of person that's only eating one type of food, let other people help you expand your palate. You may not like it, and that's okay.
Yep.
Try it.
Yeah.
And also be okay and willing to try it again, because sometimes, especially if you try it by yourself, you might have gotten the bad batch, and your friends might lie to you. You might make
like,
two occasions. I made fig and I made persimmon. And both friends that I made it for said, "Oh my God, this is so delicious." And I'm like, this is the most horrid thing I've ever made. I don't ever want to try this again.
Yeah.
And you know what happened? The pandemic happened. And the pandemic, I ended up buying, for some strange reason, figs, dried figs. And I was like, what do I do with these? And one day I actually tried it again. I tried the fig and it was dried. The time I had it before, it was fresh fruit. And I did not like the fresh fruit because I had gotten a bad batch.
Yeah.
And then someone came to the front porch because I was giving out ice cream. During the pandemic, I was doing ice cream social distance.
That's so
and
cool.
I would push ice cream out the window, and people would sit and we'd hang out.
Yeah.
And someone had brought me, actually multiple people brought me figs. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to do something with these. And they shared with me the figs that were actually ripe, instead of me going to the store and buying bad figs. And then a neighbor gave me persimmons and taught me about the fuyu persimmons. And so it's sort of, you just have to kind of be open to try something again, even if the first time was a bad experience, because you never know. You might experience something that you really, really, truly love. And that's kind of how some of the inspiration comes. Sometimes it's just like, I don't want to throw this away, or there's a ice cream that I made a couple weeks ago. It's a sourdough ice cream, because I've been making sourdough.
Cool. Oh,
a sourdough ice cream from my own like sourdough starter that I started from scratch.
Nice.
With, get this, it's so good. I was making a caramel.
Ooh.
And I went, what if I put some peanut butter in this caramel?
Oh,
yes.
Sold.
Oh,
so it was more caramel consistency. I put like just a big old heaping tablespoon of peanut butter and stirred it in. Ooh. And then I was also at the same time making the plum ice cream, but I had like the remnants of the plum gumminess that was on the pan, and I was like, I can't wash this.
What if
scrape this out and put it in the caramel? So I made a peanut butter and jelly plum jelly caramel.
Ooh,
yum!
That sounds amazing.
That's so good.
So good.
And then I added that to the sourdough, and then I made a sourdough ice cream just to accentuate this caramel that I made.
Yeah.
And oh my God, it's just, I love tasting things. I love flavors, and you know, but you're never gonna learn unless you try. And I was a picky eater as a kid. I was the mac and cheese and rice-a-roni and hot dogs and not eating anything else. And now I'm the kind of person like, I'm like, I will try that. I don't try everything, but I will try that. Like I'll try to, I'm still a little apprehensive on some things, but I'm more willing if I'm with someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Who can actually tell me like, no, this is the best thing I've ever had. I'm like, please don't let me have something that's mediocre. Because if it's mediocre, I'll never try
out.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm out. Yeah.
Well, and then I
Um,
don't know if this is actually true, but they say your taste buds change like every
think
7
so.
years. So that's my role too, is if you didn't like something growing up, give it a few years and try it again, because you may end up changing. Because I used to like despise pickles, and then like a year ago, I went to Cape Cod and had a pickle
Ooh.
with my lobster roll, and I was like, okay, I always tell people to
Back in.
retry things, so I have to like do it myself, and I liked it. So
it's
it
know what,
happens.
it definitely is true that you will learn more, but I'll ultimately make sure that your friends that you are giving you these things are actually have good taste buds to
Find your foodie friends.
or are not going to like tell you something's okay just so that they don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
No, please, hurt my feelings.
Please.
Because I don't want to give this to someone else going, oh, this is so good. And like, then they don't want to eat that because it's gross.
Yeah.
And they're not they're not telling you that it's not good. Yeah.
Clearly, I'll try anything. I just made octopus ice cream a few weeks ago, so I'll try anything.
How was that? Not good. Yeah.
Detail. I'm over here making like date bars with chocolate. I'm like, anything plus chocolate, and I'm basically in. So
you have to like it enough, and then you have to be able to, like, as far as using weird ingredients, you have to be able to see it through the end. Like, you have to be able to see it, especially with ice cream. You have to be able to see it in a sweeter form, because not everything should be turned into an ice cream. But the things
tell that to Suki.
Yeah, honestly.
Well, you know, she definitely experiment. I mean, I'm more Suki in that aspect. Like, I will try and I'll experiment. What I'm trying to remember.
Well, she did call the octopus ice cream a disaster, so I don't think even she liked it.
Out on that. I made a bacon, not a bake. Okay, I've made bacon ice cream. Yeah, obviously people make bacon ice cream. I made a caramel from the juice of Christmas ham.
Oh, amazing!
And it is ridiculous. I don't know if you guys eat ham or this, but if you do, you take the pan drippings from your honey baked ham, and that's all spiced up and sugared up, and then you turn that into a caramel. And then you take cinnamon. Then I took cinnamon that has been in basically immersed in vodka, and you add that as the base of the ice cream. So the base is a cinnamon ice cream with a ham juice caramel, is what I call it. It sounds weird, but it's
amazing.
And then
band name called it
ham juice.
Yeah,
and then
my
you take
name.
roasted apples are like kind of layered throughout.
Oh, that sounds so
good. I just had recently, if anyone's in the LA area, contact me on social media. But I started making ice cream for friends. This is just really for friends. It's not for anybody else, which means it's just in my kitchen at home. It's not anything more than that. But so I've had some people come by the house and pick up ice cream. And usually when they come by, I'm like, okay, you gotta try some ice cream. Like, and they're like, really? And so
like the best house visit.
Yeah.
It was, they were so not expecting it. They were like, really? Like, oh my God.
I know too.
And I ended up, the people that came today, so we had my friend Monica. She's actually in the book. She is oh my God, what's her flavor? She's the chicken dinner. Like, the story is about her chicken dinner.
Yeah.
And that she became an unexpected pop star in Lithuania. It's kind of a crazy story. Each story in the book is like, it's like an adventure into these people's lives. But my friend Monica, she goes by Nika Brooks or Nika Brook. And apparently what had happened is a year later, they released this song on this album, and it became like the top selling song in Lithuania that year.
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
That is so
and
random.
They asked her to come on tour, like to go play a couple performances. And like thousands like this. I could be totally telling this wrong if Monica's listening
We're
to this.
in it.
So this is my version of whatever the version she told me, which might be totally wrong. But so she goes to Lithuania. She has to learn the music because she doesn't remember what she said.
Right.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
So she
Learn
is
her
in
own song.
Lithuania singing the song that made her a pop star in Lithuania. And everyone, thousands of people are like singing along to this song that she barely knows the words to.
That's her song.
So funny.
That's so cool.
That's her song.
Yeah.
And she was just like this, like that'll be the highlight of her entire life, like this moment of like singing in Lithuania on the stages, She's just, a small artist, singer, wonderful human being. But so she came today, she brought her family, and they tried some ice cream, and they ended up, guess how many flavors of ice cream they tried today?
I feel like they would try the max that you would give them. I feel like
how many is that?
I'm going to say 20, in the 20s.
Oh, you went higher than me. I was going to say like 10 to 15. That's what I was thinking.
25.
Whoa! Wow. You have 25 flavors in your house? That's impressive.
I mean, so we were going to talk about FanFest, but she does an ice cream tasting at FanFest, and we go through at least, 15 flavors just at that?
I think I try to get like 8.
Keep them on.
I think it was more like 8, but it feels like 15 because you're waiting so long. There's so many.
That's true.
But I think this year I'm going to try to cut it back to less. I don't know how I can do that. It's so hard to make the decisions because I want everybody to have something that they will like. And everybody has a different palate. Like there's people who love everything. And then there's people who only like one flavor. And so you have to kind of find something that's like a middle ground. And then you have people who have allergies. So that's why there's 100 flavors in my book is because of that. And also the availability of ingredients. Like I have a blood orange tree. I have a Meyer lemon tree. So I'm going to make something with that. I have a peach tree. I have a plum tree. I have a strawberry guava tree. I have a pomegranate tree. I have,
I'm going to move into your house.
I'm right.
I want those trees.
So I have access to all of this free things that I could use. And as long as I'm using them, I can give them to people. And now, I'm making ice cream for friends. So now they're coming over and picking it up. And I'm like,
wow, that's so cool.
It's like a little canister thing where they bring I sell them a canister with the ice cream. And then they bring the canister and then we just trade canisters.
Love it.
Without ice cream, I wouldn't have gone to FanFest and FanFest wouldn't be what it is today.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. So originally I started making ice cream when I was working right before I started working on Gilmore Girls. And then during Gilmore Girls, I'd invite a lot of the actors to the parties. And that's how I kind of kept in touch with them. And the parties were all like, it's a potluck. Whoever RSVP'd first got to pick whatever flavor I was going to make. And then I would make a few other flavors. And then when FanFest started, the actors that were invited were like, you should invite Valerie. Because like Valerie knows what's going on. And I kept in touch with everybody and I have a really good memory. And so that's how I got invited to FanFest. And then because I was invited, other people came like Liz Torres or I'm trying to remember who else came specifically because I said, hey, you should contact them. And whenever there's an interview going on stage, especially with the actors, the audience will always ask them some question that has nothing to do with what they do.
Right.
And they'll be like, I don't know, Valerie, do you know the answer to that question? And I'll be like, oh, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I do remember that. Because remember, the actors, a lot of times, they may only be on stage on the set 10 times total ever.
Right.
If they're a more obscure character. So they don't always remember everything. They don't necessarily they probably didn't even experience it. Some of the questions that they get. So the first year I just go, I attend. It's amazing. I brought the Bop It with me to set.
I love it.
I demonstrated the Bop It and people asked questions and I was at the knit-a-thon. They did a knit-a-thon thing.
Love.
And then the next year, the people that ran FanFest were like, hey, you can sell a book. You can write a book and you can sell it at FanFest. And I'm like, that's a lot to ask to write a book. Like, I don't have time to do that.
Right.
I said, how about this? How about I make ice cream? I don't know. This is crazy. If you guys buy an ice cream maker, because we do this up at, I'm a docent at a Victorian museum. and we have an old fashioned ice cream maker. And so we were churning ice cream at FanFest.
That's so
I
cool.
made like 3 flavors and then people got to try it. But there were so many people that came to my room that we had to do like 3 different panels of it. Like
Yeah.
people just, yeah. And then the next year they're like, listen, you really like making ice cream. Like, why don't you, and you love telling stories, why don't you write down your stories and you can put it in a book? So initially this book was supposed to be for Gilmore Girls, but it turned more into anyone. You don't have to be a Gilmore Girl fan to love it.
Right.
You don't even have to be an ice cream maker to want to buy it, because there's stories in it.
Yeah.
And the stories, just the art and stuff. And so that's how that happened, how the book came about. And in succeeding years, I just always bring ice cream with me. I know I go a couple days early and I make it at FanFest and then bring it and have it. Do you guys want to know what the flavors are this year?
You have that picked out? See, this is a goal of mine to go to this. I've not gotten the opportunity yet.
You really need to enjoy it. It's so much fun.
I've been requested to make 2 special flavors. Those are the only ones that I know for sure. Everything else will be kind of up in the air until I get there. A creme brulee, because Joni, the character Joni, is coming and she has a line about.
Yep.
It's a creme brulee ice cream. I make it with like 6 egg yolks. And for a 4-cup base, it's 6 egg yolks, which is
wow.
It's a vanilla base. And then, so you basically make a vanilla ice cream with a lot of egg yolks. And then you take sugar and caramelize it into a very thin glass. Mm-hmm. And then you break it up. And then as you're packing it into the containers, you get the broken little bits. Mix. So you get these like bites of browned caramelized sugar goodness.
Yeah, so good.
And then, and that one's not in the book, but it is one that you guys will be like, why isn't this in the book? It's so good. Of the people that have been
we'll need to do a third
coming
one.
To my house. I think I might end up doing like a calendar or something.
Oh, that would be so fun.
More.
Yeah. Something like a bookmark would be really cool too. I feel like bookmarks would be really cool.
I'll show you something I am doing as a bookmark. I am doing bookmarks, but they're different. They're not the same things. They're kind of bookmarks, they're art. But the other flavor I'm making is a banana.
Ooh.
It's going to be a cold banana for Caesar.
Oh,
so it's going to be a banana rum Foster ice cream.
Okay, there we go. I was like, it's not just banana. I know it.
This one is in the book. It's basically the way you make this ice cream. I'm not going to do this one aspect to it because I find it's more for effect. You take all parts of the banana. The first part is you peel the banana and you save it and you make banana bacon out of it by taking. I'm sure you probably have seen this. People have done it. You take soy sauce, maple syrup, paprika, liquid smoke.
Yeah, I was gonna say the liquid smoke. I've seen people do it with carrots.
Oh. Yeah, and then you fry it the next day. So you marinate it, then you fry it. The other thing you do is you take the banana, you marinate that in your milk and cream overnight. Ooh. And then the next day you take the milk off the banana and you chop up the banana and you turn it into a banana Foster with like caramelized sugar and rum. And you light it on fire and then you just kind of set that aside and then you make the custard and then the next day you churn up the custard. So there's all these different parts and then you assemble it however you want. The banana peel is a very specific taste, so it's not necessarily something that everyone would enjoy, but it is interesting.
Cool, yeah, it's very creative.
Yeah.
The ice cream by itself without the banana peel is amazing and awesome. I don't mind the peel, but it is kind of like, oh, that's different. Like, it's just like a very specific taste. It was more done for the effect of like, hey, guess what? You can do this thing. Did you know that you could do this thing? Have you ever ate this thing?
You know, I love it.
Oh, as far as bookmarks, wait, I'm going to show you something.
Yeah.
Get it.
Love it.
And I found these computer Fortron cards.
Oh, wow.
Oh, cool.
That's amazing.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah,
my
that's
face.
so cool.
It works better.
That is cool.
So, I have been experimenting with this process of, it's called a gelatin print. Do you guys know what the gelatin prints are?
No.
It's basically like a thick piece of gelatin, like Jello jigglers, but without the sugar. It's mixed with alcohol and gelatin, alcohol, and what's that stuff? Glycerin.
Okay, yeah.
And so it's mixed with gelatin, alcohol, and glycerin, and it forms a Jello jiggler surface. And then you put paint on that, acrylic paint or whatever you want to put on it. And a lot of times people will do is they'll press in their photographs or different things. I wasn't really going for that effect. I was going for like an ink blot where you look at the card and you go like,
cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then what I've been doing with it is, so, you press in different colors and then you look at the card and you go, what does that inspire? I'm looking at it and maybe like you see like a dog.
Oh, so you're drawing on top of it.
So you're drawing on top of it. Or
Cool.
maybe you see a granny with a pie.
Yeah.
Or
cool.
a skeleton
so
dog.
fun.
Or so they're about the size of like, you can put a bookmark or
they're totally bookmarks.
Yeah, I love it. That's so fun.
Each one
hang it or it could be a bookmark.
This one's a donut monster with the Easter bunny and a butterfly. Like, who knows?
So fun. Yeah.
But going back to like art and inspiration, sometimes you just have to be allowed to like create without having to worry about what it is that you're creating. Not trying to force something to be a specific thing, but just allowing yourself to be creative because you see something and you go like, hey, I see that. Let me see what I can make of it. And I don't care if it's perfect. I just want to create. And that's what these are. And so I draw them when I'm live on TikTok and I'm bored out of my skull and I have nothing else to do. I'm not bored. I'm never bored. But I'll be drawing them and people will pop in the live and they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. I love ducks. Let me have that duck one. Or let me have the one that looks like a bear holding a flower. Or let me have the flower, So people are buying them and I'm like selling them for like $20 and and they're just so simple and easy and not, I'm not spending a terrible amount of time on it. I'm trying to spend the least amount of time that I can. And it's been fun. I don't know. I just enjoy creating.
Yeah. It kind of is similar to the ice cream for you, where it's kind of just like wherever it leads you is where you kind of follow.
It is. It like a lot of times when you were saying where is the inspiration for the ice cream, it's because I have something and I need to use it.
Well, this kind of transitions into something that we were wanting to ask you. So part of every episode, we do what's called our 2% Cozier. And it's about how we are intentionally making our lives a little bit cozier. And it's something very small, kind of like what you're talking about, very simple. But we like to share about it. And so it could be something of, oh, the weather is nice, so we're going to take an extra long walk, or we're going to, read by candlelight, just something that's a little just extra cozy. So making our lives, what we call it, 2% cozier. So we wanted to know if you've done anything lately that would be a good 2% cozy.
I almost think that the art cards are the thing that I'm doing
that's
making my life cozier because it's something that it's helping other people, because when I'm doing it, people are kind of chilling out, but it's just freeing. You don't have the stress of like what it's going to be. Sometimes I'll ask people what they want, what they are seeing. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I see this. And then I make that. And I feel like that. It's nice. And the best part about it, because I haven't been working, the strikes have basically decimated our industry. The film industry is kind of
it's been wild.
Really not going well right now. And I've worked one day. And so it's been nice because it's been a way that people could support me. And I don't have to feel guilty about spending time doing that, because I'm I'm earning some money, not much, but earning something in all the different things that I'm doing that is kind of very passive, but also enjoyable for me. Like it's not something I have to stress about. It's that whole adage of like, do the thing in life that you enjoy doing so that it won't feel like work.
Is that the ikigai? Or I'm going to say that wrong. It's those circle. Ikigaya. I'm not saying it right, but it's finding something that makes you money as well as something that you're passionate about. And that like middle ground is that.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the concept. I mean, you could also turn it around and do the thing you really love and then find out that you hate it because you're burning yourself out. But
too hard.
I feel like I'm doing enough small things. And the thing that also goes into it is this whole thing with making ice cream right now. Because I'm not going anywhere, people are coming to me. They're coming to pick up the ice cream. I'm having social interactions with friends that I might not have seen because they're taking the time out of their schedule to come pick up.
Yeah, we've talked about that before too, where it's not always it's like the cozy to us. Where like we were talking about earlier with different movies and things like that. Like I like rewatching The Mummy. Is that particularly cozy? Not 100%, but it's like one of those where like I love it. I'm a Brendan Fraser stan. I love him.
Do you know that he came to the costume trailer once?
I'm jealous. I just yelled at you.
He had worked with a woman named Sharon Rosenthal who during the course of shooting on Gilmore Girls passed away. She was like a costume coordinator. She would help Brenda with paperwork. And he knew that I don't know how he knew, but maybe they had talked or whatever. And they said, hey, I'm on the lot. Like they were friends. He was just such a sweet person. And one day he just came knocking on the costume door and he's like, is Sharon around?
That's amazing.
Oh. Yeah, he's a good person. Like, you can tell who the good people are by the ones that take the time out of their schedule to, see other people that are, you would not expect. Yeah. But yeah.
I love that.
I've had a lot of
really quickly, because I really want Joy to be able to ask this question. Speaking of things she loves, she has a special question for you. So I'll let her ask that.
It's not groundbreaking, but in my research, I saw that you were called Val Guyver, and that's another one of the shows. Like he's like, I don't know why, but Richard D. Anderson's like my favorite actor. I just love that guy. He's amazing.
You're so young to like, it's interesting because like he was that show was on when I was a kid.
Yeah, I have the DVDs again, another DVD.
Yeah.
But did you like, where did that nickname? Obviously the nickname came from certain things, but like, what's your history of it?
The history of the nickname came from Melissa McCarthy.
That's what I thought.
So I was but it's more than that because the nickname now is Val Guyver.
Love it.
But Melissa would call me MacGyver.
Nice.
And what had happened was I was working with Melissa fixing something. I would always rig her clothes, like tack her in certain places so she would look awesome. And one day, like I was working on another show with this girl named Susan. And I think it might have also been on a show it was on this other show. I was working with this girl, Susan and Annie, on Rebel Wilson's pilot for the TV show Super Fun Night.
Okay,
That's what it was.
Okay.
And so I met them and they just saw me rigging something. Instead of calling me MacGyver, they're like Val Guyver. So I think it was Annie,
Love it.
who's from Minnesota, who was like,
nice. Anderson.
Yeah.
That's so perfect.
Yeah.
That was
but it definitely become my nickname when I'm on set, Val Guyver.
That's fun.
I got a lot of nicknames. I also have Cat Eye Valerie because I wear cat eye glasses.
Yes.
Those are
speaking of which, if you want to share where people can find you, support you, if you have any upcoming projects that you want to plug, feel free to share all of that.
So my nickname is Valerie's Cat Ice Cream on TikTok. So it's Valerie's, no apostrophe, cat, like your kitty cat, eye, like your eyeball, and scream, like you're screaming for your life. And a lot of times people see it put together and they're like, Valerie's skate something. And I'm like,
yeah.
I wish I had put dots between it initially, but I did not.
It works though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you
so much. not working. I have the book. I have the data cards.
Yeah.
I've been making hats
Yeah.
and tote bags. If you go to my website, which is Valerie's Cat Ice Cream, you can support me if you want. Or if you're on my TikTok, I appreciate all the engagement. Like, that's so important. I don't make as much content on Instagram, but you can follow on Instagram.
Well, thank you, Valerie, so much just for your time and for your fun stories
Yeah.
and for I need to now make bacon. What was it? Banana bacon? Is that what it's called?
Mhm.
Okay, I have to
Banana
love that.
bacon ice cream.
Thank you for joining us in the Blanket Fort. We're so grateful to have you and a cozy detective. Yay. Thank you so much, Valerie, for joining us in the Blanket Fort. That was so fun. I have to look up that Rory sweater. That is
Yes,
on my
we need to
list.
have one for
I
sure.
know. Okay, so Larissa, what's your 2% cozy this week?
Yes, I recently finished an audiobook called The Glitch,
Ooh.
and it's just a sweet little second chance romance. There's a little bit of magical realism because they quite literally get a do-over, a second chance where they go back and kind of redo their
Oh.
relationship. And I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. I namely got it for the narrators.
Hmm.
So it's narrated by Sam Claflin, who is in Daisy Jones and the Six, which we've
Oh,
talked about that
mine
show
connects with
before.
that.
Ooh,
Well,
okay.
kind of connects with that.
And then, well, maybe this really connects. So the female narrator was Daisy Edgar Jones.
Oh, yep. There's the connection. Oh, fun. How long was it?
About 11 hours long. So
Oh.
it was a little bit longer, but you know me and my quicker speed. But yeah, I just really liked it. Anytime there's some sort of second chance romance for me, if there's conversations about therapy and one or both of the characters using therapy, I just love it so much because I don't know, if you're having relationship troubles, like there's nothing wrong with using therapy. I think it's a great message without it necessarily being like everyone should be in therapy. I don't know. It was just like a
Yeah.
natural inclusion of it. So I really loved it. It was a 5-star read for me, and I hadn't had a 5-star in a
Oh.
while. So it was definitely
Ooh.
time.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? I know. I feel like it's so interesting, like when you get into like either like a good run of 5 stars or you get into like a drought or something, you're like, oh, what is going on?
Right.
So
Super
mine
crazy.
connects with that through
Yes, I'm excited
Daisy
to hear
Jones
this.
herself, kind of. I totally thought that the Daisy Jones actor was the Daisy Jones in the TV show. I don't know. They're the same name. Like, what's the odds of that?
I
But
know.
But my movie that I watched, well, mine's movies, obviously, but I saw Twisters in
Ooh.
theaters, and I'll tell you what, I really liked it. I went in
Yeah.
kind of nervous because I liked the original one. I felt like it was like it's a very nostalgic movie. I mean, cozy, I would say adjacent. It's like one of those
Right.
things where like, is the vibes of it particularly cozy? Not 100%, but like the 90s filming of it, I love.
Yeah.
But this one actually was really good. It was definitely a little fantastical, I feel like is the word also, because
Yeah.
one girl, just like one small baby spoiler, she was in like so many Twisters. Like, how on earth are you in that many? But it
Is
was really fun.
she I was gonna ask, is she like a storm chaser? Is that why she's in so many? Oh, okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I thought she just had really bad luck.
It's kind of both because at one point they're not chasing the storm, they're just like sitting somewhere, but they're in Oklahoma, which is right in Tornado Alley, like
Okay.
the Tornado Alley, and it's set around a once in 100-year summer of all of these tornadoes that are coming,
Oh,
and
no.
they're basically trying to in the first movie they're trying to like track what it looks like in a tornado, and then in this movie they're doing something a little bit different, which I thought was like a nice callback to the first movie. But I would not say this is a sequel. I would say it is a similar
Like a remake?
vibes of it. Yeah, like they're not the same characters, but there's like they have in the first, or I guess quote unquote the first movie, there's a Dorothy, which is like the system that they're using to try to track the tornado. So there's a system in this called Dorothy. So I thought it was like a really nice kind of play off of, but in a different direction.
Is it called that because of Wizard? Okay. I was gonna
Yeah.
say that's a really strange name, but that tracks with
Yeah.
Wizard of
It's
Oz.
cute.
Do
It's
you
cute.
you get tornadoes where you live?
Not really, no. Which I'm grateful for. We've gotten one or two where I've had to like go into a basement, but it's not like it was attacking the house or anything. It was
Mhm.
like something could have been kind of spotted in the area or something. So I'm grateful that I don't live in Tornado Alley, especially after this movie. I
I
was like,
do.
"Whoa." Have you had to like run into basements or
Yeah.
something?
Well, so this is the hard thing. So, yeah, Tornado Alley is, Central America. So most states have a basement, but Texas, we don't have basements here for the most part.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple buildings, but most houses don't. Because of our soil here, I don't fully get it, but basically,
If
there's
you go
just
down too far, it's water. Yeah.
yeah, it's just not
Yeah.
safe to create basements. So we don't really have that added protection, but we do get tornadoes quite a bit. I may probably
Whoa.
not as much as like Oklahoma or Nebraska, but we do get
Yeah.
it quite often during tornado season. Um, and luckily, I haven't personally experienced too many where I've really felt the effects. Like I've seen tornadoes in real life before, which is
Yeah.
always super scary.
Whoa. That's wild.
But the thing for me is just the tornado sirens are so scary sounding, which I know they're
Very
supposed to because they're
apocalypse
supposed,
sounding.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anytime they go off, it's just like so stressful, and then the sky looks all
Whoa.
creepy, not cozy vibes. But
Aw.
I'm glad
But
the
this
movie was
movie,
enjoyable for you.
yeah, it was fun. The one thing I wouldn't do, I saw something online where they like went to see it but didn't tell like their friend that it was, is it 4D, whatever it is, where like the chairs
Oh
shake.
yeah. Oh
That's the one thing I
no.
would not do. That does
Yeah.
not feel like the vibes for this for me. But it's fun.
Yeah.
You get your little popcorn, and we went to a theater where you can eat, so we're like eating our little burgers and watching the movie.
Fun.
It was very
That's
fun.
really cozy. Even if the movie itself isn't cozy, sometimes the theater experience can be, although I personally prefer watching movies at home versus a theater, but you can
Mm.
definitely make it cozy for sure.
Yeah, it was very fun.
You can find us on Instagram at Blanket Fort Files, and please subscribe wherever you listen to your
Yay.
podcasts. And if you could leave us a review, it does truly help us out. And join us next week in the Blanket Fort, where we're going to be talking about our favorite cozy spies. I cannot wait for this one. I talked about it in our very first episode, so little sneak peek from my case file.
Long awaited.